Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I spent days trying to figure out the strategy that I wanted to approach this video with. I wanted to orchestrate every little detail so I could put out the best possible video that I could, which is interesting because of the subject matter that caught my eye during this month's readings. I remember being in grade school and having everything down to a T. I could cite off every mathematical formula, I could recite entire histories, and I could write papers that perfectly matched each other in structure point for point that varied in subject matter. I legitimately believed that to be perfect and to reflect everything that could be thrown my way was the way that I should be proving my understanding of any particular subject, at least the ones that didn't require contact with the realm of art. Possibly because of this false understanding that perfection and recall meant understanding of the subject, I considered myself to be inherently uncreative. Looking back, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was a bad artist in my art classes, but my issue was always that I focused too much on perfection. More days than not, I spent staring at a blank canvas or a blank page or whatever, waiting for inspiration to strike. But there was one problem I faced when being in an art classroom. Anything I made was up for criticism. This was a world of difference from what I was used to in any other class. Since I could follow any formula and come out with the one true answer in any other subject, there was no stress. How could I be criticized for getting the right answer? But in an arts class, you are suddenly tasked with creating perfection. At least that was my view at the time. If you could not compete with the artistically talented, then why bother? I could never come to terms with my inability to create perfection. The concepts of natural beauty, of the imperfect, was something that even in high school I understood as a concept, but I couldn't embrace it for myself because I was so focused on perfection that room for error didn't make me feel vulnerable, but uncomfortable. The fact that I even need to feel comfortable in structure and predictability in a world that thrived on shades of gray instead of a hard and fast black and white is silly, but I was not prepared for ambiguity and the lack of a correct answer. I focused too much in my art on what I was doing wrong rather than what I was doing right, and it's for this reason that the vast majority of my art has been destroyed because I, upon finishing each individual class throughout the years, determined it not to be something to be built off from, but something to be forgotten and buried. Luckily, I retain a lot more of my writing, which is my art form of choice. However, at the time that I was in school, creative writing was at the bottom of the hierarchy and retained no value in the school. As for the art forms that the school did put focus on, because of my obsession with perfection, so much of what could have been fun experiments with my creativity became a pyre in honor of my inability and unwillingness to deal with unknown variables that just simply could not be solved. But I couldn't help that obsession. So much of school had been focused on teaching the one path to all the answers that art just didn't factor into the equation. This did more than impact my understanding of creativity. For so much of my life, I was unwilling and unable to take risks because it placed me in a realm in which I wasn't comfortable. Because I've grown to understand creativity, I know it to be different from the ability to create perfection. It's the willingness to take a risk, knowing that you can make a mistake in an attempt to create. It's a willingness to sort through ambiguity in order to find a truth that can only be interpreted by the artist at work. For as long as I had been in school, I never considered myself to be an artist, because I was unable to create perfection, which was all I was ever willing to give back to someone when asked. But I am an artist in my own right. I just have to be willing to deal with obscurity, and quite frankly, the fact that it took me 20 plus years to realize this is honestly just really sad and a testament to the 13 years I spent being unprepared for everything to come after.